On today's episode of Today in World War II, November 20th, a legless man joins the RAF. A huge surface battle takes place between the Royal Navy and the Italian Navy. The Germans get even closer to Moscow, and a Frenchman becomes a hero of the Soviet Union. Let's get started. All right, so on November 27th, 1939, Douglas Bader was took his first solo flight back from his tragic accident in 1931 that cost him both of his legs. Now they weren't like cut off at the hip. One was, upper thigh, one was like around his knee. But obviously, at that time in the RAF, you couldn't continue to fly, so he was removed from the service, and he bounced around doing clerical jobs, doing office things like that. Well, when the war started, he requested that they allow him to rejoin the Royal Air Force. And it's ironic that he was able to be successful. But if you think about it, when you're now at war with a country that has a 3 to 4 advantage um, to your one aircraft, they needed pilots, and so they were able gave him a waiver and said if he could prove that he could fly with artificial legs, then they would let him come back in. Well, not only did he learn how to fly again with artificial legs, he excelled at it. In fact, he became one of their leading aces. He before he was shot down over France, I believe it was in 42 or 41, 41 or 42. He had 22 victories, but his impact was even more important than that. He was an excellent leader. He was promoted numerous times. I think he was a wing commander or squadron commander when he was shot down. Very good tactically speaking. He was very arrogant, very irascible, very prickly. He rubbed people the wrong way, but you know what? He was an inspiration of the RAF. I mean, I've read biographies of other aces from the RAF, especially Sailor Milan and Roland Robert Stanford Tuck. And they admittedly said, even though they were like this, they were constantly bickering with this guy when they had any kind of meetings together. But they said many times when times really got bad, they kept thinking to themselves, well, if a guy with no legs can do it, surely I can do it. And that's the impact that he had. I'm sure they weren't the only pilots in the RAF who felt that way, especially during the dark days of the Battle of Britain when it was just them against the whole might of the Luftwaffe. So, what I would love for you to do right now is just do me a solid. Not going to beg, but I'm going to ask. Please hit the subscribe button and click the bell so that way you get notified whenever I drop a new video. Okay. It would be great for me, great for you. It's a win-win for both. All right. So on today's date, November 27, 1940, there was a huge surface battle between the Royal Navy and the Italian Navy. It was called the Battle of Spartivento, and it had everything to do with the Italians' attempt to stop the Brits from supplying Malta. I've mentioned this in previous videos. I'm not going to rehash it here, but just so you understand, is that Malta was a very strategic key island for them. They had a port, some submarine base, airfields, but it had the unfortunate luck of being positioned between two Italian territories. You had Libya, which was a colony then, and Sicily. So every time the British tried to send a convoy to supply them and reinforce them, they had to run the gauntlet between the German Luftwaffe and the Italian Air Force and the Italian Navy. In this case, the Force H convoy. It was called Operation Collar. They were escorting a convoy to Malta, and the Italian fleet sorted out to meet them. Now, the Italians were under strict orders not to attack unless they had superior numbers. And initially they did. And it got a little hairy for the Brits initially, but this, two British battleships, or a battleship and a cruiser, were able to get to them. And then once that happened, the Italians knew that they were up against a battleship. They retired. So there was not a real lot of significant advantage. Maybe it was a tactical victory for the Italians, although that's I don't really think I think it was a draw most likely, but I think from a strategic point of view, it was a victory for the British because the convoy got through, and really that's all that mattered. So but as a lover of naval battles, especially World War II, it's always nice to read about these surface engagements without aircraft carriers because in the Pacific, once they got past well, let's face it, for the most part, it was aircraft carriers, except in the Solomon Islands. So, anyway, I digress. Okay, but I don't digress about my desire for you to click the like button and subscribe, not subscribe, but well, subscribe if you want to, but comment, okay? Because we're talking about algorithm stuff here. I wish we didn't have to worry about the algorithm, but we do. The better the algorithm, the better engagement that my channel gets, the more people it gets shown to. So if you just go and click the thumbs up, the like, and then make it just any kind of comment at all, prefer it to be positive, but as long as it's not obscene or vulgar, then hey, leave something. Okay, I appreciate it. All right, so then on November 27, 1941, the German SS Reich Division captured Istra, which was west of Moscow, and the 7th Panzer Division, advanced to the Moskva-Volga Canal at Yahroma, east of Moscow. We're trying to get Moscow in a pincer. Now, I lived a long time in Russia. My wife is Russian. My kids are Russian. I spent probably 20 years there. I was there during the Soviet Union, was there during Russia, was there in the Putin thing, and just only really since COVID and the war in Ukraine did I stop living there and I moved back to the United States. I've been to Istra. Okay, I've driven there from our apartment in Southwest Moscow to Istra. It ain't that far away. Okay, they got really, really close. And this was really getting down to brass tacks as far as whether the Germans were going to break through and take Moscow. But the Russians had a couple of advantages here. They had a spy in the Japanese high command that told them that the Japanese were not going to invade Siberia, so they could so Stalin was able to move Siberian divisions, which are crack troops, and they made it to Moscow before the Germans could really get going, and that made the difference. And as I've always said in previous videos, the Germans lost the war in Russia in the Soviet Union when they didn't take Moscow. Okay. And finally, uh, it's weird to say this, but a Frenchman was awarded on November 27, 1944, the title of Hero of the Soviet Union and Order of Lenin. And you may be asking yourself, well, why would they give that kind of a award to a Frenchman? Well, if the Frenchman is one of the best fighter pilots you had in the war, you're probably going to be grateful and you're probably going to award that ace the same accolades that a Soviet ace would have gotten. In this case, Marcel Albert was awarded these awards, or awarded the awards, that's redundant, but received these medals and titles on this date. Just a couple of things about Marcel. He flew French fighter planes against the Germans. He flew Hurricanes. He flew Spitfires, and he flew the Russian planes, the Yak planes. And he said that in his opinion, the Yak was the best fighter in World War II. Now, I disagree with him. Far be it from someone like me. I mean, I'm not in the basement of my mom's house, but I do. I'm an amateur historian, but I have read a lot. I've done my own research, right? That's what everybody says nowadays on the internet. But I take from the biographies and stories from other aces, and I believe that the P-51 Mustang was the best of fighter plane in the war, because it's more than just maneuverability. It's more than just, because I remember that in the Eastern Front, the airfields were close to the front lines, so ability to penetrate and how distance was not really a huge factor in a fighter's performance. It's kind of like the Brits. The Spitfire in the Battle of Britain was great because it was fighting over home turf, and the MB-109 did not have any range, and so it could only fight for maybe 10 minutes over England and had to go back. Otherwise, it would it would run out of fuel. So I think when you put everything together, I think the P-51 Mustang was better. I think the Focke-Wulf 190 was also one of the, was probably the second best fighter of World War II in the Western Front. But what do I know? This is just one man's opinion. But good for Marcel Albert, for having the opportunity to fight the Germans, even though his country fell under occupation of the Germans. He kept fighting, and you got to just say bravo, bravo, monsieur, bravo. Well, bravo to you for watching this video. I really appreciate you watching them. Thank you so much. And I'll drop another video tomorrow and you'll be able to watch that